C, with the one and only Cyrus Rod, not any other.
Well, thank you so much and welcome to our last Friday. It is the Pan-African Friday right here on UBC TV on another very good day. Thank you so much for choosing to be with us on August 26th, today, 2022. And of course, this is the last Friday in the month of August, meaning next Friday will be a new month, will be in September. But thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jagenda Semakola Zikusoka. Thanking you once again for being with us. And of course, welcome to the Pan-African Friday. The panel is in studios. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning.
Happy to have you, and amazingly today we put on similar colors. My colors tell something about my party.
No, not for me.
Mine talk about my party. I don't know whether yours do the same.
No, not at all.
She has no party.
Which is also true.
She also has no party. She has no party. Okay. Karibu, ndugu Irugarama.
Asante. Good morning to our viewers and good morning to you comrades here in the studio. Once again, it's another chilly morning, at least in the studios. And of course, coupled with the sad news of the demise of our comrade, General R.I.P. Tumwine, I hope we shall have time to share our views with the audience at large.
Let's just get into the conversation. And of course, conversation today is the Pan-Africanism in the man Elly Tumwine. I think many people, this generation, may not know who Elly Tumwine is, but of course have a few things here and there that they can talk about him, especially those who remember his statements recently when we had the riots in, when was that? When we had the riots of November, 20th November 2021. Do talk about General Elly Tumwine for whatever they want to say. However, the Pan-Africanist in General Elly Tumwine, the nationalist in General Elly Tumwine, and I want to start with you, Duguru Garama.
What is very critical is what actually you started with, that the present youth, generally speaking, may not know who General R.I.P. Tumwine was. I want to believe that even in death, he is. When you read books like Sowing the Mustard Seed, you get the elements of a man like General R.I.P. Tumwine. Things to do with having shot the first bullet at Kabamba when they attacked that barracks to gain arms and be able to propel their revolution, are mentioned. Being the second army commander of the now UPDF, then NRA, is also captured, and for a considerable number of years. His Excellency, when he was giving us the news, Senior Comrade Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, of the demise of Comrade General R.I.P. Tumwine, he said that he taught him when he had just finished Senior 6, so he taught him at secondary, something should be something like that. Now, and that he died at 68. In my opinion, 68 is not an age that I can comfortably say he had advanced, and therefore probably I'm comfortable that he should have passed. I want to believe that by our nature as Africans, the afflictions that we may undergo notwithstanding, a man like General Elly Tumwine should have even lived up to 90 plus. That he died at 68 in itself, like any other who passed away, only that now we are talking about him on the African continent is problematic. In the tweet that General David Tinyefuza quote Sejusa came up with, he said that you danced with death almost all your life. Now finally you have gone to rest. So a man really who could have easily died at Kawamba when his eye was, a bullet went through his eye, and he has constantly been having those dark glasses. A man that was the army commander and prior to that was involved in that guerrilla and fracas. The man that survived so many bullets and other dangerous encounters throughout his soldiering life. To have died of what we now call natural causes. Of course, I have not had the opportunity to look at the, at least it has not been brought to the media so prominently, the medical report, he died of what. But I hear that it had something to do with lung cancer. And that he died outside, like majority of our comrades do go outside for that medical treatment. In my view, is really not, is something that we should provide a learning ground. We need to work on improving our health infrastructure to make sure that our own comrades really, because I'm not saying they cannot die, but I'm saying that we can have an improvement in our health infrastructure to make sure that at least we may treat them from here, not just the late Elly Tumwine, but so many others. And although I'm not against referrals, because I know for a fact that referrals are part of the practice in the medical world, and we cannot, because even America, by the way, refers her people to other countries. So, but everybody listening to us and viewing us knows exactly what I'm talking about. I want to believe, therefore, that the General Elly Tumwine, who was a patriot, because at the age at which he joined the NRA at that time, majority of the other people would have chosen comfort, would have gone elsewhere, but he did that. And he kept there. I do not want to go into, you see, we are not talking about human beings, really. We are not talking about angels. And probably if he was an angel, then I would have less to talk about, because I don't deal with angels. I don't know them. I'm talking about a man, a mortal man, who is prone to all sorts of things that we all go on. He could have had some altercations in parliament. There were incidences there. But that is all part of what a human being goes through. He has had some kind of engagements sometimes which were not friendly with especially Honorable Semuju. But we all know sometimes how we get to certain levels whereby probably we lose out some of these bits of restraint. So I do not want to again look at some of these few and human errors really to judge the person of General Elly Tumwine. He has been a senior comrade in the Pan-African ranks, no doubt about it. He has been with us. For us, we grew up certainly seeing him. For us who were like the understudies during the times of the late again Brigadier Nobo Mayombo, and the General, David Mafabi, the Dr. The late again, our former General Secretary Tajuddin Abdulman Rahim. So, and we were looking at the likes of General, up to now we still look up to them, General Elly Tumwine, General Otafire, General Sejusa, Tinyefuza, if they are our own patron, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And there is a lesson, there is a whole sea of learning experience we draw from them. Now that his life is no more, it does not mean that we stop learning from his life, because he lived the life and he didn't live it for himself. I want to believe that he lived it for others to take lessons. Let me conclude by saying, therefore, that I extend my heartfelt sympathies to his immediate family. I have known the wife, very humble auntie, who would just carry her bag and come to Wandegea market to do shopping. I know the children, these young girls especially, and who are now matured. Then I've told you that I knew General Elly Tumwine personally, and especially through the Pan-African ranks. So my condolences to the family, my sympathies to the UPDF, my sympathies to the Pan-African world, and I want to call upon all Ugandans and the world at large that we draw lessons from the life of Elly Tumwine. We take away and discard what a few elements that could not have gone right with his life, especially, and I know you're going to talk about it, when he mentioned that the police has got a right to shoot you, and they only play that bit. Police has got a right to shoot you.
And the first time he said that was, I think, in 1987. He had said that before.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so there was nothing
he said it in 1987. It's nothing
because
strange.
truth be told, that when you open the Police Act, you will find that,
yes.
Yes, you will find that when you engage the police
violently
to a level that you pose a threat to them, then they can use a certain level of force that may actually take away your life. It is not something that we are used to hearing, and we don't love to hear that. But when somebody mentions it and it is not his own creation, it is just telling you what is in the law, then we shouldn't take it against him.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Rachel, General Elly Tumwine is no more, like Nduguru Garama has said. He's been here. General Elly Tumwine was shot on the 1st of November 1981, and their struggle started in 1981. He shot the first bullet. It is said of all the people who got head injuries, I think it's only Tumwine who managed to survive. Those who got head injuries, those who were shot on the head and etc., it's Tumwine who survived to this day. Tumwine has been celebrating 1st November every year as not his birthday, but as his Thanksgiving Day. He's been a friend, and you know, I was born on the 1st of November, so incidentally he's been celebrating my birthday. Or I would actually fluke to celebrate my birthday in his Thanksgiving mission or so. General Elly Tumwine, his love for Africa, his love for Pan-Africanism, his love for Uganda has indeed been unmatched. If you were given an exam, to write an essay about General Elly Tumwine and the Pan-Africanist in him, how much would you say and how much would you write?
What a question. But anyway, I personally wouldn't want to dwell on the volume of work that he was able to put away in his lifetime. But I think I'd like to focus on the fact that this journey we are talking about began with a man who had his eye on the future. That is why he took it upon himself to see that he does what it takes to leave Uganda and Africa in a better place. At the same time, you have to know that the military or the political military movement that he first joined, which is for NASA, as far back as 78, was an organization, of course, led by President Museveni, but that had deep connections with the Tanzanian state and the state of Mozambique. And what informs my submission at this time is the fact that towards the end of his journey, he was last year, to be precise, he came out to say that Uganda needed to be doing something about transition. And I know it is not something that he said lightly. I believe that General Tumwine was a person who was extremely concerned that this country does not go back to where we were when they entered the bush. And I believe that he personally believed that if we do not handle the transition question well, we will not end up well as a society. But I think also that his words were informed by the states with which FRONASA had a strong connection. We're talking about the Pan-Africanist in him. We know that Tanzania has been able to forge its own path, right down from Nyerere, then we talk about Mwinyi, then to Benjamin Mkapa, then Chekwete, and of course the late, what's his name again? Magufuli, and where we are now, to Mama Hassan. But before that, the people who began on their journey, that very journey, were the people of Mozambique, when they began with Samora Machel, then they moved down to Joaquin Kisano, then they went to Amanda Jebuza, and now to Filipe Nyusi. The people of Tanzania and the people of Mozambique, I believe, and I have no personal knowledge of General Tumwine, but I believe that they provided the conversation that he intended to further, or he had begun, because we really were not party to the conversations they had at a high level, because of course he was a member of the High Command, the military High Command, and he was a very high-ranking NRM official, of course, quite apart from his military career. But what I'm trying to say is that the Pan-Africanist in him wanted to make sure that Uganda was in a firm place for decades to come. He wanted to ensure that Uganda took its place proudly in the community of African states. And he had his inspiration from countries that have done that successfully, having begun where Uganda began also. Nearer here, Congo also, Laurent Kabila, we know that he began in the bush, somewhere in the Congo. And of course, it passed somewhat, not very clearly, to his son. And then, of course, now we are finally in a place that is more clear with Tshisekedi. Sudan, South Sudan, has also had a similar history. And of course, we know that among the more forceful characters in that direction was the late Garang, and then Salva Kiir, who have their struggles with Riek Machar. But what I'm trying to say is that the Pan-Africanist in him wanted a dignified existence in the global community. A dignified existence calls for sacrifices, calls for a frank discourse. That is why he could look someone in the eye and say, this is what it takes. It may not be good for good, it may not make pleasant listening, but these are the sacrifices that have to be made. What remains for us to see is if the sentiments of General Tumwine were registered by the powers that be. No one can separate him from the struggle. No one can separate him from NRM. No one can separate him from Ugandan history, because he has been in the kitchen, so to speak, for the last 35 to 40 years. So when he said something, he knew what he was talking about. He was a man who had earned his stripes. He's a man who knew the power of legacy. He's the man who knew the power of incumbency. He's the man who knew what bad governance can do to a society. So if I'm to look into the Pan-Africanist legacy of General Tumwine, it would be that he died struggling to ensure that Uganda is a society that it can become. He said that in the beginning, decades ago. He said it many times, and he continues to say it, not as a perfect man. He was a flawed man like the rest of us. But the lessons we take from this life, actually, Ndugu Jagenda, sometimes I got the impression that Ndugu Tumwine was not happy with some things. Among them was the enduring corruption in this society. He was very clear that he wants nothing to do with corruption. He has not been corrupt himself, but that the state has failed to get a grip on this cancer. So the Pan-Africanist in him knew that cancers such as corruption, cancers such as failures in governance, failures in political activity, can ruin everything they struggled for. I think that would have been his dying wish, if he had one, to see that the struggle that they had in their youthful days is protected for posterity. I don't know that he set the right foundation for such a thing. I don't know that that will in fact become the case, but that was his wish, in my view.
Thank you. The moment I've had to interact with General Elly Tumwine, all the time that he's been there before his death, I kept asking him a question that what was in your head, what were you thinking, what was in your heart on the eve of Tarehe Sita? What were you thinking when you knew that you had decided, you had made a decision and you were going to storm Kabamba? What was in your head? And of course he kept telling me what we were thinking about and the Uganda they were envisioning, and he even says they never thought they would actually come back alive. He said, well, this is what we decided to do, go. They were young boys. To me, I think hadn't even had a son at that time. He hadn't had a child at that time. He married, yes, but he was still a young man. Because this first child was actually born in the bush, in the jungle somewhere, the late Junior. But in Ndugu Rugarama, Tumwine is gone. He's transited into another world. It's just a matter of time. We don't know who among the stars goes next after Tumwine. But do you think he's a fulfilled man, whatever he is? Like she said, their passion and vision superseded Uganda. We're looking at many of these things from an elevated angle beyond just the borders of Uganda. And that's why you hear, when the president was writing, of course, Tumwine has been one of the last four standing for those who went to Mozambique. So we now have President Museveni himself, we have Ivan Koreta, and General Omole, Bosco Omole. Those are the only ones now. From the 29 that went to train over there. But today is dead and his contributions ended. Do you think he's a fulfilled man, that he actually sees where they thought Africa would be away from just Uganda?
I do not know as to whether the late General Elly Tumwine has written any books.
He's written one. There is one that he just wrote about 2-3 years ago. And I think he calls it The Achievements of the NRA or NRM. There is one that is written.
In that particular book, I think he must have enumerated his what he thought were the reasons as to why they went to the bush, and as to how much they have achieved the objectives for which they went into the bush, himself having been one of the very first 27. It would therefore be important for us to look at exactly what he says in that particular book. Away from that, I want to believe that when anybody, including General Elly Tumwine, sets a mission, says this is my agenda, along with your colleagues, and you don't lose your life on the way. God is so gracious. You come out the way he came out, and he witnesses the ushering in of NRM government. And he's after the death of Ahmed Seguya, he's the second army commander, and he goes on for such a long time as the commander of the NRA.
I think he was the first when they took power.
Yes, he was. He started from the. He came from the bush because the Ahmed Seguya died from the
exactly.
bush. So when they captured
second
power,
in the bush,
he
first
continued.
after capturing power.
Yes, he continued. Then they formalized the ranks,
in 88
around there, where he became the major general, and he was still retained as the army commander. When you realize that from that time, he becomes the minister of security just recently. Before he was, he's the presidential advisor. He goes into many other senior government offices where probably he would have said, I couldn't fulfill my dream because I was not given an opportunity, but he's given that opportunity. The system which he was partly responsible for creating gives him the challenge and the responsibility to go and perform what you think you would have ordinarily performed if given the opportunity. Here is the opportunity. I want to believe at that level, General Elly Tumwine has died a fulfilled man. His systems are very complex. You will find that part of what he would have probably wanted to achieve collectively, he has not done it because NRM along the way, there are some forces which joined it. There are some people who may not have necessarily been part of the original members who joined along the way. There are members who have influenced the goings in the running of the NRM government, who are not necessarily those who went to the bush. Now, why do I say that? I say that because you will find that whatever General Elly Tumwine could have wanted to achieve collectively, others didn't have that spirit. And even the ones who went to the bush themselves, by the way, when they entered into government, there were a number of new challenges which they faced. And the original ideas that they had conceived, in one way or another, either they were watered down or they could not be achieved because the reality on the ground was that they could not be achieved in the manner in which they thought they would be achieved. So, to that extent, of course, when you look at the 10-point program, because let's just go back to the 10-point program, and then later on it becomes the 15-point program. And it's quite a very huge thing. I think there are a few things like when you talk about peace, that one was achieved. When you talk about non-discrimination, bringing everybody on board in NRM, probably that was achieved. Then later also disorganized because we went into all sorts of things, including multi-parties and what have you. When you look at the the army gets into parliament and makes observations and sees what takes place, that was achieved, and he was, I think he was the longest serving army representative in all these the parliaments that we have had. So to that extent, really, you can see that if speaking for him, now that he's not around, I want to believe that any honest person would say, to that extent, I'm fulfilled. But certainly, there will always be, in life, there will always be that unfulfilled part in anybody's heart. And I want to believe that probably he would have loved to see certain things changed in his lifetime. Part of what people want to misconstrue has always been in his handover speech when he was handing over to General Jim, and that he insinuated that actually the president also should now step down and somebody else. I don't think that's what he said, because he's on record. He talked about a transition. Let's now prepare and work smoothly towards the transition. Now, he was not saying something new. We all know that there is going to be a transition. Either by omission or commission, the transition will be there. And him coming up and saying it, and I don't think he was even saying it for the very first time, by the way. Probably people, you see, we usually want to choose to hear what we want to hear and negate what is actually sometimes the intended message. So, the life of General Elly Tumwine, the positions that he held right from the bush up to his time of demise, because even when he left the ministry, he was still not discarded. He was still a responsible member.
He was actually supposed to retire 1 week from...
Yeah, absolutely. He was on the list of those who were supposed to retire.
And it seemed what the speech to give on behalf of all the other retirees.
Having been, I think, the senior, most senior among those who were retiring. So you can really see that there has been consistency in the life of General Elly Tumwine. And those who have been very unkind and uncharitable, sometimes in describing him as a rubber stamp, that if there was, for instance, there was something that the president would have authorized to happen, then that he wouldn't even change a comma, even if it was realized by him that that comma was unnecessary. I think that some of those statements, especially in death, are very uncharitable, but you do not stop somebody from making comments, however irresponsible the comments may be. I want to believe that going forward, as an individual, as somebody who has known General Elly Tumwine, and from the Pan-African ranks, the Pan-African world and everybody out there, there is very rich information that we borrow from his life. I want also to believe that the UPDF must do something about documenting and probably coming up with a book about his life and his contribution, such that it can benefit not just the young soldiers within the system, but also the outer world away from the UPDF. I want also to state that NRM, as the government in power, has got to do something about the senior officers, you know, how they transit them. You know, you are in government, yes, but you are getting out of government. So the preparation, you know, prepare, because we have had consistency. We have not had anything now coming out from generals' cycles. Probably it will not come out, but we have had senior government officers leaving this world of ours, and probably their widows or children are crying out to the president, not the system, you see, to the president, and saying we should be left with this house, should be left with such a car, you know, that kind of stuff. So we need to have a holistic, more responsible approach to retiring our senior comrades and making them comfortable and also their families comfortable.
When we lost General Aronda Nyakairima in about 2016, 17, about 15,
yes,
2015 about, General Aronda Nyakairima, we of course knew a man that was celebrated as former CDF. The time he died was actually Minister for Interior. Yes, Internal Affairs. He started the Nagamon project and stuff like that, and lots of things. But of course, after that, then again, we started hearing of things. You know, there are certain things that were coming up again, saying the wife, the widow, now is not even sure whether she will stay in the house or do all the things too. And I think then we also lost Okera. General Okera, we lost Levy, Karuhanga, in that same time or so, and the things keep coming up. The question here should be, the Uganda People's Defense Forces, for example, It's losing its seniors, it's losing its, but of course it's life, and it's natural, and I think that's what it should be. You would rather, you know, lose the seniors who have built and done all these things as the young ones come. I wouldn't want my mother to bury me. I would, you know, I would love to bury my mother, not her to bury me or something like that. But is the force itself, the Uganda People's Defense Force, fraternity or family, learning from all these things, because you can't say death happens abruptly. We know you've not died today, but someday you'll die. So what happens when you die? Are they learning from these things, or because normally from all the things we tend to want to pick lessons? What do you learn from this? What do you learn from that, Rachel?
I had said before that General Tumwine, it seems to me, was a man who wanted this country left in a better place than he found it. And of course that is just one of the aspects. Institutional memory is also another. As the African community at large, we are not very good at record keeping. We are not even very good at revisiting past experiences, let alone improving the situation as we found it and so on. I had also said at one point that we cannot separate General Tumwine from the last 40 years, about 40 years of this country's history. It also means that the present dispensation is the single most important since independence, because of the sheer longevity of the same leadership. Therefore, whatever goes on at this time cannot be placed at the doorstep of any other except this movement, except the present institutions. So what remains in terms of what I said, that the best contribution that this country can make to the legacy of General Tumwine would be that to see that whatever is being undertaken, whatever is in the pipeline, is something that is done with an eye on posterity. What has been until now is for people to live in the moment. We have lived too long in the present. We really have poor regard for whatever follows and how it follows. We have this tendency to say, I think we say to ourselves largely that I will not be there, so the consequences will be suffered by whomever. I just must enjoy myself right now, and that is it. That is a very wrong way of doing things, and General Tumwine, it would seem to me, was a man who did not want that way of doing things to continue. You are asking about, have lessons been gotten from this experience of dealing with veterans and past serving officers? Not much ground has been covered in that area, and I think it's because it has not been a deliberate, it has not been deliberately factored into the administration of the state. When you're a public official, especially at the time of your demise, the state becomes responsible for some things in the short term. For example, the benefits that accrue to such a person, things such as retirement package and so on and so forth. But there's a tendency in the running of our states in Africa here to personalize matters. We say that was Tumwine. No. He was a bearer of a certain office. There's a difference. And so that short-sighted conduct of national matters, hopefully, will lose ground as the days go by. I really want to emphasize the fact that what this gentleman represented was a deliberate and focused push to transform this society. The best way we can repay him and his family is to make sure that indeed those lessons were well listened to, and that we do something to assure that what we learned is really in place. That's really where we are.
Okay, I'd asked my producer to find us some of General Tumwine's songs here, to play them, and you have a comment here from Goma in the DRC. Somebody here says, "Good morning, UBC TV. I am Justin from Goma, Democratic Republic of the Congo. Here we say, we're sorry for the loss of General Elly Tumwine. our Pan-Africanist general. May his soul rest in peace. From Justin. Justin could be male or female, but Justin.
And they can pass.
Say it again?
And he can
It's gender
pass
neutral.
for
Yeah,
anything. Maybe as we get to the song, or you have another message you are reading.
Say it again?
As you get to the song.
Yes.
Or you have another
No, I
message
wanted to
you are
get
reading.
the song, and my producer should actually, you know, General Tumwine was another very fascinating man. And maybe just because his first degree at the university was
Fine art?
Fine art. He did a bachelor's in fine art.
Is he not the one who murdered our Gongomo and Gongomes?
In Lumumba?
Yes. You know, he's a very strong member
yes,
of the
I'm also,
Lumumba Empire.
Yes, I'm also Lumumba. You're also Lumumba?
Don't. He said, asking if the Pope is Catholic.
Or Mufti Menk
Yes.
is a Muslim.
Yeah.
Well, and you see,
And they said the UPDF flag, you know,
the UPDF flag, yes, the UPDF flag, and
some military uniforms.
The currency that we have, the legal tender that we have, the money redesign. You remember in 2013, I think, we changed the money that we had. We changed the money, not a currency reform like the one that we had in 1987, but changing the notes. You remember we had some notes that we changed to adopt what we have. And it was part of that team that did the designing and choosing what to put. You know, when you look at Ugandan money, people are not just very observers, or they even don't care. They're not observant enough to look. But you see certain features of certain places in Uganda, you know, on the different notes. And General Elly Tumwine was part of all that. Like Rachel said, we can't quantify and say this is all the workload that General Elly Tumwine did or had for us or for this country, but I think immensely his Pan-African spirit, to some of us who think African, Pan-Africanism and etc., for all the different conversations and you know, all the time that he had to speak about Africa, but like we all say, like Rachel says, the only way we can actually honor him or pay him back is to put some of these lessons into practice for the thing that he envisioned, for the thing that he wanted to see happen, for the thing that he thought the society should be like. I think that's where we should be for General Elly Tumwine. And I think this could be one of
the song.
One of the songs. Let's play it. General Elly Tumwine, just right there, and of course thanking God. He had all the reasons to thank God. For people kept announcing his death on social media again and again and again. The last time, the very last time they announced that General Elly Tumwine had actually died, I called him. I called him, and when I called him, he laughed off and said, "Oh, am I dead again?" That's what he told me. And he said, "I will die. I know I'll die someday." Yes, when the time.
Not just yet.
Yes, I'm not yet dead, but I'll die. When the time to die comes, I'll definitely have to die. So,
sure.
and that was General Elly Tumwine. But that's the thing in general. We need to get a few things here just before we need to leave people with some of these memories. For my friend in Goma, Justin, I don't know whether Justin knew that the general is also a singing general, so there is one of his songs. Several others, Mama Africa, there is Ainunu, The Beauty of Uganda, and several others. But now, that I think was his recent one, which I think must have been done by Steve Jeans. I'm not very sure. I'll find out from the family. But to you, Ndugu Rugarama, we just need to do a wrap-up because we might be interrupted by some live broadcast that is coming in from Gulu today as we celebrate World Youth Day.
It is very important, like I mentioned earlier on, that we don't do fire brigading. Why? What do I mean? What I mean there is that we have got senior army, police, and call them government officials, who really, like we do retire judges, for instance, and you are like, you know, a retired judge should live a certain life. And that even after he or she leaves this world, the family should be at a certain level.
And to the judges, just as you said it here in Uganda, they just got the judicial administration's bill passed recently, and that gives them what you're actually talking about.
You see, it becomes very, very disturbing to witness. Not all of us are going to become judges. Not all of us are going to become generals. When society has given you a responsibility which you have performed, and you are now either in this world at an advanced age or you have retired, there are certain bare minimums that we as society expect to see you and your family live. It is not acceptable that Uganda or any other country for that matter on the African continent must keep watching our generals, our senior retired government officials, their families go through begging processes. I want to believe, because I know that at least there's some knowledge, level of knowledge, which I have, that general was not necessarily one of these rich guys, you know, as a consequence of having worked in government. I know for a fact that, for instance, they have got some junior ministers who had 5 years in cabinet, who are stinking rich.
A million times richer than Tumwine.
So, and there would be no problem. I'm not suggesting that they die and therefore we test as to whether their families are better than... No, what I'm saying is that the system, there must be a structure to cater for people who have served this country and they are now either in retirement, or even if they are dead, then their families are at a certain level. I want to state that in that way. Secondly, transition is usually not an easy thing. There has got to be a way that we prepare transiting our people at different levels from one station to another. And also, there is an element in our country, I want to believe, which is also not good, especially in our society. We have got a growing bad habit. It is not African, that when we lose somebody, we have got a section of people celebrating. Like I have gone to media, social media.
But they actually said they dance.
No, the celebrations we are talking about, that's culture.
Okay.
That's culture. What these ones are doing is not culture. Actually, the dancing in Acholi is mourning. It's part of the mourning
and not
process.
for everybody.
Yes.
Not for everybody.
You
You
see?
ought to be like Olanya or
Hey,
another person.
you have
It's
to
not
be
for
at a certain
everybody.
level
You have to be at a
where
certain level.
you celebrate in that. But
Bola
celebrating the
Victoria
death of
dances, yes.
somebody, yes. What I want to conclude with that, by the way, to say that there is no honor in abusing the African traditional values. And one such value is respecting the dead and not speaking ill of them. I want to believe that society, unfortunately, has lost that touch. Majority, a certain percentage. I'm calling upon them to come back and know that we are African And the Africans' way of doing things is to respect the elders, to respect the dead, also to respect one another. May the soul of the departed General Pan-Africanist, Elly Tumwine, rest in eternal peace.
You, Rachel?
Yes, it's a strange world in which we live. But it's also interesting that someone should celebrate because they will go the same way. So it's interesting, except there's a rupture before that happens. But that aside, I think it's very much a sign of the times when people are totally uncultured and their behavior is not justifiable under any condition. But still, that is not any reason to veer sharply away from our responsibilities and obligations. It also should be pointed out that anyone who sets out to do the right thing must expect such animosity, because most people do not have the courage to stay the course when opposition comes from those who want to do things in ways that cannot propel us forward. General Tumwine, for whatever else can be said about him, was not a man wanting in courage. And so that is not unexpected in those circumstances. It is also a good time to say that we need more of that kind of person. When people have this kind of response, there is a tendency to shy away from the hard parts of governance, from the hard parts of leading people. Leading people is not necessarily a pleasant thing around the clock. There are hitches and there are holes in the road and there are sudden turns. We must solidify our ground when it comes to determining that what it takes to move this society forward, what it takes for Africa to become an emerging power, is for people to do the hard work. The hard work is not for everyone. That is why, of the people who came with him from the bush, he's only one of 3 full generals, isn't he? There's General Kagame and there's General Museveni. And is there another?
Of
the
people,
among the 27.
Yeah,
yes.
actually 11 surviving, but I think the generals, yes.
I think there are only 3.
Him and him now, General Museveni and General Kagame.
So it speaks of the caliber of the man. By the time, there are others, and some of them still living, who have not made it to that rank.
Of the 27?
Yes.
And I think there are about 10 now. 10 left also?
8 to be precise.
8 to be precise, yeah.
Yes. But the fact that only 3 of that group are full generals means that it takes a certain hardness to assume that place. It takes a certain hardness of skin to be in that place. So the spears and the daggers are not to be unusual in such circumstances. What I want to wrap up with, Mr. Jagenda, is that I have said many times that Africa is short of people who will do what it takes to get us where we need to go. Because it's a very hard road, by the way. It is a lonely existence. You'll be ostracized, you'll be criticized, you'll be castigated, poorly appreciated. But we must rear more of those. That's what we need.
Thank you very much. We will just stop the conversation here for today. We'll cut it short. General Elly Tumwine will leave you with some of the songs, but also to remind you that His Excellency the President is in Gulu, and we have the celebrations coming in from Gulu, I think Boma grounds, and our TV is already stationed there, very ready to bring that to us as we also celebrate the life of the singing general, Elly Tumwine. We expect his body, and of course the UPDF family will let us know what happens from yesterday to when General Elly Tumwine will be laid to rest. At UBC TV, we promise to deliver on our mandate. We'll keep you updated on everything and anything that happens. Thank you so much, Rachel, and thank you, Nduguru Garama. Pan-Africanist has gone. Cole Mandia Mazimba is not here, one of General Elly Tumwine's comrades. When we went for the trek in 2020, January, I trekked as at the trek. And
for how long?
For about 11 days or so. We went on the 3rd up to about 11 days, 2 weeks also. General Elly Tumwine recommended to me a book to read, and I bought it immediately. I read that book. It's called Wars, Guns and Votes. The book was written by a man called Paul Collier, and it says, if you want to destabilize the continent of Africa, you do three things: cause wars, bring in guns, and bring votes. Once Africans see a vote, then they can never be the same. Bring votes and disorganize everything. Cause wars and discourage everything, then bring in guns. This morning, amazingly, when I was leaving my house, somehow an incidental, I was just looked at a few things there and there, then got onto this book that General Elly Tumwine recommended to me. I read it that time, and when I looked at it, I said, oh, so this is one of the ways I will also remember General Elly Tumwine. We'll stop the conversation here for today. Thanking all of you, those in the DRC, in Cameroon, in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Malawi. Somebody sent me a message in Malawi. To say we have a meeting here in Malawi, talk about the African debt, but we are followers of the Pan-African Friday.
Yeah, that should have been the young lady in Kenya.
They are in Malawi, and
Yes.
said, yeah, we're here watching Winnie.
Winnie, yes.
Gweno.
Is a friend of ours also in Tanzania.
In Malawi, and say we are in Malawi here watching the program or waiting for the Pan-African program. So to all of you out there, this is how we've decided to mourn our general, an African son, Elly Tumwine Tuhiriwe, who will be laid to rest any day from now. We'll let you know and we'll update you. May his soul rest in eternal peace and forever. Thank you, good morning, and bye for today.